Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster and I thought I'd do a quick video today about making a Firesteel handle. Now what I've got here is just a very cheap and cheerful Firesteel off from the internet, and here I have a nice little offcut of that lovely apple wood that we had a little while ago. Now to save a bit of time, I've put up a couple of videos on this side over here, just showing you me knocking off these corners, putting a hole in, that kind of thing. And what I wanted to say was that this is a really nice little project. You know, it's really simple. It can be done with really minimal tools. You know, you haven't got to use a billet or an offcut billet like this. You could use a branch, you could use pretty much anything you can get your hands on. But I kind of like the fact that, you know, I'm using a piece of otherwise scrap wood. And these Firesteels, you know, you can pick them up for a really small amount. I think this cost me kind of like £1.50 or something online. And you know, you don't need to make your own. Obviously you can buy them and get them pre-handled, but it's just a nice little project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the camera just a little bit closer in, and we'll make a start. So there we go guys, this is where I've got to so far. I've knocked off the corners so we've got a rough sort of square shape on here. I've put a little hole in here with a drill bit, which, you know, it's a very small hole. It's probably, I don't know, 15 mil, half an inch deep, something like that, which basically means we've still got plenty of our Firesteel left. Now the next step really is going to be to start shaping this a little bit with the axe. I'm not sure how long I'm going to leave it yet, but I do prefer kind of a longer Firesteel handle. It just gives you a bit more purchase when striking. That's just my preference, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to start shaping this down now. I'll speed through some of the footage, and we'll see where we end up. And what I was going to suggest, guys, it's quite a good idea when you're shaping something with a hole like this that you've already put in, is just check it every few cuts, just to make sure you're not going too close on one side or another. Right then guys, so here is where we have got to, and what I've done, I've left a fair amount of waste wood on the end of this, just so I've got something to hold on to while I'm carving. And just as a little tip, what I've done is I've deliberately rounded off all the square corners on this, just so it's a little bit more comfortable to hold. Now you may notice there is a bit of a crack running down here. Not sure how well that's picking up on the camera. It comes down to about here, which is a bit further than I wanted. I'm going to persevere anyway, and hopefully it'll be all right. And all I'm going to be using is my little Mora carving knife. If you haven't got one of these, or you haven't used one of these, for the price I highly recommend them. And really all I'm going to be doing is just continuing to refine this down. Now you can use something like a chest lever grip like I am here. You know, you can use the back of your thumb and to sort of draw it along like this. You know, if you're sitting like I am, well away from other people, you can even use sort of like a forward grip. And as long as you're being careful, you're not putting too much pressure on, you can go like this. It really just depends on your personal preference. I tend to sort of play around with different grips with different projects, and one of the things I find about different grips is that if you're carving for a particularly long period of time, and you're doing something like this, and perhaps where the handle is sort of going against the inside of your knuckles, it's getting a little bit sore, I'll just swap my grip round to something like a chest lever, and it's putting pressure on a different part of my hand, which means I'm allowing the other sort of part to rest a little bit if it's starting to get a bit sore. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with this for another 5 minutes or so, and I'll see where we get to. So there we go guys, we're roughly even on all of the sides, and because this is something I'm going to be gripping, I'm going to leave this with a knife finish. I'm not going to sand it like I normally would, and I think, you know, it just gives it that little bit of texture. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to chamfer off probably half of the width of what's up here on the top here, just because that will make it slightly nicer. And hopefully you can see that there. And what I think I'm going to do just off camera very quickly, I'm just going to sort of tie the chamfered area into, in fact, you know what, I'll do it on camera, it'll be easier. Really I just kind of want to extend the sort of the handle area into the chamfer, just so it looks more like it's part of the same thing. And I'll do that quickly while speeding through the footage. So there we go guys, again no real practical reason for doing it, I just think it looks that little bit nicer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the camera around quickly, very quickly just cut it off around about here, and then we can finish up on the end side. So this is what we're left with guys, and by slotting the Firesteel in just temporarily and loosely, it gives me something to hold on to while I carry on carving, so my fingers are all the way down here just holding on to the very bottom edge, rather than trying to hold on to it like this with very little space. So again, just another little tip to make your life easier. Now, and this would work exactly as it is now. You know, I could very easily call this finished, but I do want to smarten it up a little bit. I want to try and get rid of some of the sharp edges up here, and I don't want this quite as fat as it is. So I'm just going to spend another few minutes just carving this down, just so it's a little bit more comfortable to hold. And what I think I'm going to do now guys, just to final little bit, is just to kind of roll over the top a little bit here. It's not particularly sharp, but I want to sort of chamfer it off at quite a steep angle, and then just kind of get a little bit of a sort of a roll over on the top. So there we go guys, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And what I think I'm going to do, I'll throw a little video up in the corner up here somewhere, just showing me putting this in an oil bath, and I'd probably put that in there for about an hour, maybe two, just to let it get a good soaking of oil before I put the final thing together. Right then guys, so here we have the finished product, and in order to set this into the handle, you can use a number of things. You can use epoxy, you can use wood glue. I tend to use super glue just because I've always got some lying around and it's less fiddly than epoxy, but this is the finished result, and I hope you all agree. You know, it's quite a nice, you know, it's very simple, don't get me wrong, it's quite rustic. You've got some facets on the end here, you know, you've got a little bit of sort of knife work down facets on the side, and you know, it's not going to be winning any awards, but you know, with that oil finish on there, I think that applewood's come up really nicely. And you know, size wise, I've made this sort of the right size for me to use. You know, you get things like the Swedish Army Firesteels, which I'm a big fan of, but I do find the little kind of bit that you hold on to at the end a little bit too small, can be a bit fiddly, so I like the idea of having this just that little bit bigger to fit my hand. And again, you know, you can go out and buy your own Firesteel. You can get some really nice ones with carved handles or antler or something like that, and you're probably paying 10, 15, 20 pounds or so. You know, this cost me £1.50 for the Firesteel, and the wood was a piece of offcut, and it was a nice little project for sort of half hour, 45 minutes this afternoon to do. So I hope it was useful, guys. Comments and questions in the box below. Hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I hope you'll all join me next time. Thanks, guys.